Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Wednesday, April 27th, 2022, and tonight is our monthly comic book review episode. As always, you can find all episodes of the podcast, along with links to social media, ways to donate, and other ways to contact me at salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. That's the podcast webpage. And always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions for shows, or if you would like to share some of your stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or others you trust. I can either read those on the show, or if you'd like to join me on the show, we can arrange that as well. And so that basically covers all of that. Tonight, like I said, we're covering comic books and the paranormal again. And as always, I would suggest anyone that hears this podcast join the Discord, because these streams that I do, they are in Discord, and people can post pictures and along with their comments. And right now, the guest of tonight's episode has just shared a bunch of amazing images related to this episode here that we're doing. So, and those, unfortunately, I cannot really share easily on the podcast or YouTube feeds. There's just way too much. So if you want to see all those live and see all the comments live and maybe be part of the conversation, join the Discord, and then you can be here when possible for the live shows. So I believe that covers everything. And of course, when we're talking about comic books, those of you who know the show, I'm sure already know who the guest is going to be. So I want to say hello to Derek.
Hey, James. Hey, everybody. Really glad to be back. It's going to be a fun one tonight.
Yeah, I didn't also forgot to mention, in this one it's going to be a little bit different, because this is an event that I have not read personally. Because I spent most of my time reading Marvel comics. I saw a lot of the DC cartoons, but I never really got around to the comics. So Derek is going to be doing a good part of the talking tonight, describing the storyline here that we're going to cover.
Yeah.
So, and I'll just be responding as we go, and we'll just be talking about that, whatever comes up along the way. So.
Yeah. So normally we've been covering Marvel and stuff, which we both love. But I figured it'd be cool to kind of pick your brain and see what different aspects of the DC lore that you like the most. Maybe we can cover some more DC stuff going forward. But when we were trying to kind of pick what event we were going to do, I was trying to see what one would touch the most paranormal topics, and this is definitely one of those. But while I was rereading it, I realized how steeped in DC lore it actually is, and then the Green Lantern lore in particular has its own mythology to it. It's extremely complicated, and this event, like Marvel with all the X-Men events, is just absolutely massive. This is basically we're covering DC Blackest Night, which was a big Green Lantern event by Jeff Johns, and it's kind of the culmination of his run on Green Lantern, which he did a ton of work on, and he kind of established all the different multicolored lantern cores, which is really cool. And he has a tendency to do that with different. He did the same thing with Shazam, and he gave all the brothers and sisters their own powers and stuff, and has a real Power Rangers vibe to it, which I personally really enjoy. But
yeah, I wasn't aware of the different colored groups, the different colored lanterns. Lanterns, are they lanterns, or are they just different colored
lanterns?
groups?
Yeah,
Okay.
lanterns.
Yeah,
it gets it gets a little tricky, but essentially, the Green Lantern power set is it forms constructs, and it wields this Green Lantern ring, which, all right, to start, basically there's this group called the Guardians, who are the first kind of sentient life in the universe, and they decided that emotion is kind of the cause of all problems in the universe. So they got rid of all of their own emotions and decided to use these emotions, the emotional spectrum, to like forge this weapon or this power source called like the Green Lanterns, or like the lantern rings. And then those like people who wield these lantern rings then become kind of the intergalactic universal kind of police force, or like peacekeeping force that maintains order throughout the universe, like led by these group of guardians that kind of look like the Watchers in Marvel, but they're extremely active. Whereas the Watchers in Marvel take a more just a watching approach. They don't really intervene. These guys very much intervene. These guardians, but they're just these little bald aliens the same way. And then so with the Green Lantern ring, so they chose a bunch of people originally, like different Green Lanterns for 3,600 sectors throughout the entire DC universe. And when one of these lanterns dies, the ring leaves the lantern and goes and finds somebody who has a strong willpower, has the ability to overcome fear. And like Hal Jordan is the kind of the most famous Earth human Green Lantern. He's like a former fighter pilot for the military and stuff. But then Sinestro is one of his biggest villains, but it started out as his mentor, and he was known as the greatest Green Lantern. And then Jeff Johns, previous to the event we're about to cover, did something called the Sinestro Core War, where Sinestro gets like locked up by like the Anti-Monitor or something, one of these big cosmic figures who are mixed up in all these big crises, these big huge DC events. And somehow during these travels, it's long and convoluted, but he finds out that there's more emotions that can be tapped into other than just willpower, which is what the green energy taps into. And he taps into the emotion of fear, which is yellow, the color yellow. And basically these emotions correspond to like a different color on the color spectrum, like the Roji Biv. And he forms his own lantern corps called the Sinestro Corps after himself, and that they're the yellow lanterns. And they go and find people who can instill great fear into people. And then I probably should have pulled a list up of all the dealers, but we'll get into it during the course of the story, pretty much. There's the blue one, which is hope. The red is rage. The indigo is kind of this weird. They don't have a set power. They kind of can like merge other people's other rings' powers together, but they're this weird alien like kind of metaphysical tribe, which is interesting that they picked indigo because there's the idea of the indigo children in the real world, these kids who were born with powers and stuff.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah,
it's really interesting.
Yeah, the color spectrum, the colors being associated with the powers almost reminds me of talk about not in these episodes, but talk before in previous episodes about auras and
exactly
all that. So that's really I like that tie in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then red rage, and all the different powers have different kind of loopholes and different kind of kind of like things that are tied to that kind of limit it. They're all kind of even in one kind of. It's similar to Pokemon, where like the water defeats the plant, which defeats the fire, which defeats the water, and they like some kind of cancel each other out. So one isn't more powerful than the other.
Okay.
But at the start of this, there's this like, or I guess in the mythology, there's this prophecy of the Blackest Night. We're in this prophecy. It was the lantern that preceded Hal Jordan, the one that died, the alien lantern that died, and Hal Jordan got his ring from. This one was like a very famous one. He was best friends with Sinestro at the time, and he kind of like was considered a little bit mad by like the other Green Lanterns because he was privy to this prophecy of something called the Blackest Night, where it'd be this war of the lanterns, which I'm pretty sure at the time the prophecy was figured out. Like there was only the Green Lanterns. The other lanterns hadn't really popped up around the universe yet. So people are like, what are you even talking about? And then after this war of the lanterns, something called the Blackest Night would happen, which would pretty much extinguish all life in the universe, basically. And the Guardians refused to believe it. They didn't think it was true. And then all of a sudden, the Sinestro Core War happens, and all these, and like all these lanterns, like every lantern spectrum is kind of fighting amongst each other, power, and then that leads us immediately into the event we're talking about tonight, where this Black Lantern Corps rises up, and fueled by death, the death energy in the universe, and away we go.
Wow. So that's yeah, that
A lot
whole
of stuff, yeah.
idea. It's part of. It's been used in different parts of Marvel as well, but the idea of that death persona or that death energy. But that's a neat way to do it, because that's almost going from the sci-fi to the metaphysical.
Yeah,
Right there.
exactly. And there's different. I'm gonna kind of like just whenever points get brought up, I'm just gonna bounce in out of order. And
Yeah.
people like definitely should. We're really gonna like scratch the surface of the story. Like there's so many tie-ins, and this is really the maybe the best Green Lantern event that's ever happened. Like one of the top. If you search top 10 DC events, this one will be in it for sure. So if you like what we're talking about, definitely give it a read. And the visuals are amazing because he's bringing in all the color spectrums mixed with like essentially where this story is going. It's like a Green Lantern or a Lantern kind of paradigm or a Lantern prism for a zombie apocalypse within the DC universe, like the undead rising, going to kill everybody like via these Black Lanterns. And so it's pretty cool to look at too. So definitely check it out if you get a chance. But at some points during the course of the thing, they make the comparison to dark matter and dark energy in the universe as far as this death energy. And there's a character Adam who's like kind of like Ant-Man in the Marvel universe, who can get really small down, like really shrink really down to the molecular level. And he goes inside one of these Black Lantern rings, and he says it's like almost like this, like a skeletal structure inside. It's like it seems like almost the skeletal structure of how the dark matter in the universe is kind of this dark skeleton of the universe. He like that's the analogy he makes, that it has some kind of connection to dark energy. And then this like one of these villains that are going to pop up has a tie to dark energy, the same way like Null, the symbiote god in Marvel, has this tie to this primordial darkness, this like basic dark energy. You know.
Right.
Do you want to just get rolling from the beginning?
Yeah, I just that is we've been talking about that lately. It seems like there's just that whole idea, that whole conversation of where do these ideas come from? You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
where do these people that are writing all these stories, where do they get their ideas from? I'm probably gonna come back to that over and over again in various shows until people are tired of it. But it's just I really
No,
wonder about
I
that.
love it.
Yeah. So, but because it does seem like both, the people that work for these different companies, I know that some people will work for both of them at different times, but still, there are different people at different times in these companies that they do seem to play on these different themes. Although the dark matter thing, I don't think I've heard of that tie directly to that
Yeah,
much.
it's kind of like a bringing in kind of modern sci-fi,
Right.
science-y type stuff, like a modern paradigm on top of it. But just as far as the different creators kind of tapping into these concepts or using these concepts, like it might be like I like to think that a lot of these writers are like us, and they're just listening to these types of podcasts, and they're influenced by these type of ideas. And if I was going to make a story, I would probably have my story revolve around trying to awaken some primordial beast from this primordial darkness, which is like where this kind of story's going. And but also just the idea of these things coming through art itself, just but the idea of being creative, the idea of doing these things, it brings out something like the muses or whatever, where you tap into these deeper ideas. And then I think sometimes especially that will come out in things like this, where you have so many people working like on this event in particular, so many different people's ideas coming together, so you're getting more energy tapping in. And then with these big comic events by DC and Marvel, part of like some of the coolest aspect of it is that they're using ideas from previous writers. So it's like culmination of 50 years of Green Lantern stuff or 50 years of other DC stuff, and then like it's almost like you're just opening a door to some other type of information to flow through you, you know. And
Yeah.
it seems like comics in particular are good at that.
Well, and this is something that if people haven't read a lot of comics, they may not know. There are usually multiple people several people in a company working on comics at any given time. So there is some serious coordination that happens, especially within the last, what, 20, 30 years, maybe 20 years
Yeah,
more. It got bigger at
exactly.
that point. But there is some serious coordination. Writers have to have meetings and talk about how they're going to coordinate all this within several different comics. So
Exactly.
it's not just one writer coming up with one thing. It's a whole lot of them
Yeah,
working on things together.
yeah, exactly. And then having to fit all these ideas. So 20 different creators or whatever, trying to fuse their ideas together. They're all, one person's writing Superman, one person's writing Wonder Woman, one person's writing the Flash, Green Lantern, Justice League Dark, yada yada. Having to fuse all those ideas into one coherent story to make some kind of big event for the company. And then also all these ideas need to make sense for the history of your company. You can't
Right.
make make new stuff that like refutes everything that's. I mean, obviously that happens and people do that, but they have to make reasons for it. It has to make sense, and just that it's this big giant ball of creativity, and something might come through there. But like, especially, I don't know, and it just gets really weird because the prophecy that this is kind of based on, like, so the best writers they'll just read tons of stuff when they're going to do something like this. And Jeff Johns, he found something that Alan Moore had done, referenced one Alan Moore's brief Green Lantern run. And for those who don't know, Alan Moore is like, him and Grant Morrison are the two most famous magician slash comic writers in the game. He talks a lot about like the power of the imagination. Where do ideas come from? Ideas creating reality. He's just steeped in the occult. So he put this. I can just read it right here. After untold millennia, the enemies of the Green Lantern Corps will rise against them. The Corps shall be destroyed to the last life form. The planet Oa shall be dust. And Oa is like the home base planet of the Guardians, where the Green Lanterns kind of all meet. Amongst the gathered foemen shall be numbered the weapons of Cord, ranks the sentient city, and the unspeakable children of the White Lobe. And those are all the capitalized weird. It's all like, those are all names of stuff. It's very Lovecraftian. The Empire of Tears, finally released from the entombment, shall join the assault. Sodom Yat, Aldaxamite Hald as the ultimate Green Lantern, will perish battling the Lobe spawn. The planet formed Green Lantern named Moga will be the last to fall, as Ranks explodes a blink bomb within its core. And Moga is like a sentient planet that wields a ring. It's like an entire planet, which is kind of like Ego in
Yeah,
Marvel.
yeah, Marvel, yeah.
The idea that, like, part of it is they copy each other, but also part of it I think is they're tapping into the same similar concepts.
Oh, definitely.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And after that, there will be only demons dancing in the ruins of Oa to the rhythm of drums, bound to the blue skin. And this is like 25, 30 years before. This is like
Wow.
very early in Green Lantern run. This is like, it's not even exactly the prophecy, what the prophecy becomes in the story, because
Hmm.
that involves the whole spectrum of lanterns and the Black Lantern and all that kind of stuff. But the whole event being formed by some random offshoot seed idea from some other writer 30 years prior in some other story, and this writer happens to be a magician that is into getting ideas from the other side. So the question of where do the ideas come from, it's a deep one, I think, James.
Yeah,
you know
definitely. Matt in the chat here says, yeah, pencil, ink, storyboard, and writing. Yeah,
yeah
that's a lot to coordinate among, I mean, who knows how many people, dozens of people. So, but
exactly.
yeah. So if you want to get into this here, and then we'll.
Yeah, let's crank right there.
Yeah.
I just finished rereading it before, so I'm just gonna kind of use Wikipedia to kind of center my thoughts, but we're just gonna cruise right through it. It's only 8 issues, so it's not too bad. But we start out. The first thing you see is like this. It's a really stormy night, and this kind of mysterious person who, I guess, if you had hopped in blind to this, you wouldn't know who he is. But in other events and leading up to this, he's known as the Black Hand, who's this Green Lantern villain who's just obsessed with death, and he like might be a necrophiliac. They keep like hinting at it,
Mm.
and he hates life, and he just wants everybody to die, basically. So he has this god he worships, like Necron, who's like primordial death, and like, so all of these emotional spectrum things, these like emotional color spectrum forces, they kind of all have um, deities, or like not gods, I guess, that are assigned to them, but almost like avatars, like kind of like in the Marvel universe, like the Beyonder is kind of like an avatar for a greater cosmic force
Right.
and that type of thing. So like fear would be like parallax, or rage would be parallax, and that was in like a previous thing where these entities can, like, almost like the Phoenix Force, where this entity possesses Hal Jordan, he becomes like a villain, and Necron is that force, but for death. So it's like the Phoenix Force for death, basically. And this guy, the Black Hand, found this thing and worships him and wants to, like, bring him up, basically. So we first enter, we see him digging up Bruce Wayne's skull from his grave. And at this point, Bruce Wayne is thought to be dead. People don't think he's dead, but this is like coming off like 10 years after Death of Superman and the whole like era of death and revival in DC Comics and Marvel Comics.
Okay.
How like deaths don't really mean anything anymore.
Right.
And then this Black Lantern battery starts to charge, and then then we see the Guardians, who they flash to, like, they're all kind of in this big circle, this like council, this alien council guiding universe, like, again, idea, which is something I'm very interested in. If you interested in our talks at all, but they realize that, okay, this prophecy might have some merit to it. There's this war of light, this color spectrum war is happening right now. So the next thing that's going to happen is probably this Black Lantern Corps is going to rise up, and this Necron is going to rise. So then all of a sudden they see these thousands of black rings coming to this crypt where, like, they keep all the deceased Green Lanterns. It's like on Oa, this big giant like crypt for all the Green Lanterns. So the power of these Black Lanterns is they revive dead people, and then these dead, normal in the story, it's dead heroes primarily, and then these dead heroes go and they have to tear out the hearts of people and consume them, and then, like, for their emotion, they feed off the emotion. They do that by literally ripping their hearts out of people's chests, but like they feed off. They'll find people who are going to get an emotional kick out of, like, or emotional hit from seeing that dead person. So if somebody, like, and when people see Bruce Wayne, like, Robin is going to get really upset from that or whatever, and that's the point. And then you get your heart ripped out, and then when you die, a black ring comes and resurrects you, and you become one of these Black Lantern zombie things. So one of the first things we see is this whole horde of these Black Lantern rings going to the Green Lantern crypt to basically create the original Black Lantern Corps by using the deceased bodies of former Green Lanterns. And then so Flash is going to investigate Bruce Wayne's grave, and he's attacked by Black Lantern Martian Manhunter. And if at any point you don't, like, recognize these characters, that's like one of the reasons I want to, like, talk about it, is because, like, I want to see, like, which DC stories we should go for next. So if you're like, who's that? I'm definitely down to talk about it.
Yes.
So Martian Manhunter is
So far, I'm good, but yeah, you might just
Yeah.
real quick if you want to. I don't know. People, I would just recommend everyone. These names, these are all characters that have years of history. So if there's a name that Derek mentions here, that doesn't seem familiar, you can always. I would definitely recommend just going and checking them out, because there's just so much. If we stop for every character, it would be here for hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Flash is going to check out the grave and everything, seeing what's happening, and he's attacked by a Black Lantern Martian Manhunter, who is a member of the Justice League, and, like, the core of it, the heart. They call him the heart of the Justice League, and obviously he's from Mars, so his body's actually buried on Mars. So this is a universal threat. Like, we know his body's not just from Earth; his body's from all over. Obviously, if one's from Oa or popping up, but then the Green Lanterns are met by a whole horde of Black Lanterns, and then Hawkgirl, and this is all kind of just flashing panel to panel, just to see, like, how different heroes are being overcome by these Black Lanterns, and they're all by heroes that, if you're a DC fan, are really going to be like, oh man, like, fan favorite heroes. It's a packs an extra punch, So we see Elongated Man and Sue Dimney, which are, like, fan favorites, and they died recently in the comics, and they go and they kill Hawkman and Hawkgirl as they're fighting. And the whole point of it is, like, they go and they rally the emotions up. So Hawkman and Hawkgirl are fighting about their powers as they're reincarnated countless times from ancient Egypt, and they're always reincarnated together, and they always love each other. but like when they declare their love for each other, they're murdered. So she wasn't ready to admit it to him, and he was getting really upset about it. And then so Elongated Man and Sue Dibney come, and they like kind of, they're these zombie monsters, so they're scary to begin with, but then they start to like tease them kind of and like make the fight even worse. They get their emotions up, and then they tear their hearts out and eat them basically. And then the Black Rings come and revive these heroes in the Black Native Corps. So it's just kind of just going around the universe, seeing these different heroes getting overtaken basically. And then we see Dead Man, which is Boston Brain. He's like basically just this kind of dead circus performer type character. So he's like wearing this red suit, but he can possess somebody who can go into. He's a ghost. He can go into people's bodies, and so he's like popping in and out of these different Black Lanterns, trying to investigate, trying to like find secrets about him, and trying to find ways to kill him. But one of these. So in every panel, basically, as these things are getting popped up, you see these little like, in regular Green Lantern books, there's a little lantern shaped thing that's like all colored green, and that'll kind of give like lantern commands, or like when like the lantern or a ring speak basically. It's in it, so it would do that, but a black version of it, and it would kind of give commands like rebirth, resurrect, like revive, die, like that type of thing.
Right.
As this like kind of like we haven't seen Necron yet, but essentially it's like Necron is tied to some Black Lantern force, and that's what we're seeing in all these panels. And then you see Boston Brand, Dead Man, rise, and he's like, what? And then all of a sudden, because like he's a ghost to begin with, so like what? He's like, what is that even going to mean? And then you see another green, like Black Lantern version of him kind of rise out of his ghost form and start like going around doing like running amok.
Wow.
So that's when they realized, so that's when they realized that these things aren't the actual bodies. It's like these Black Lanterns are going on dead people, and it's like, so these bodies, the Atom makes them. He says at one point the bodies aren't wearing the rings. The rings are wearing the bodies. So basically, these rings are like going to dead bodies and then kind of using their essence, or like just kind of reconstituting them, creating like duplicates almost of them that are the zombies, which just gets really complicated and murky, and I don't really know why they made that choice to do.
Right.
But it kind of makes it. I think it's basically so they can eventually in the story make a Batman zombie, and then have Batman like 6 months later in DC come back and not really be dead, and kind of have both those together.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But but they learn that these things, and so you can kill them and not worry about killing Wonder Woman and stuff, because they're not actually the people. They're like a zombie duplicate of them, basically. So they learn all of that, and then the Atom and the Flash battle Black Lanterns, and the Indigo Tribe appear, and they're trying to like a bit of like obliterate these things. And so like Aquaman is also another character who died recently in the comics. That's a huge one, obviously. So Mira has a big role in the story. She's we're following her around, following Flash around a lot. It's really like it's a grand DC event, so it's like kind of popping from person to person, trying to get all the different perspectives on what's happening. We see Firestorm, which is like an amalgam of two different minds in the same body, kind of to create this new hero. Like kind of supposed to be like the brains of the operation. It started with like one older scientist and like one younger person. So the body and then the brain kind of like in the background, kind of giving directions and stuff. So we see them, like new versions of them meeting with like the corpse versions of them, and then it gets really complicated because they each have two minds, and then like one of the ghost minds tries to pop into the real body, and then it like one of the I'm
No,
like
that's
mumbling because
okay.
it's complicated.
It's It seems like once you
It's
get to basically ghosts and almost like astral versions of astral
yeah,
doppelgangers, but that are given physical forms, and then become
exactly, yeah.
zombies in a way.
Yeah. So it's this like astral. It's like zombie doppelganger,
Yeah.
that has like two minds inside of it, and then like traps one of the other minds, like fuses with the with Firestorm, and like traps one of the living minds in the zombie body. So it's like watching the whole thing from like trapped inside the zombie, being like, help me, like help, like let me out, like basically. So then yeah, so we go to the Hall of Justice, and it's basically just we're just pretty much for the first few issues, just basically seeing how all these heroes are taken out by these zombies. And pretty much nobody's safe. Mirror and the Flash flee the Black Lanterns, and then they use Adam's power to escape to the phone lines, which is a really weird power that he has in this story that I haven't seen him have before. He obviously does, but the Adam, this one who looks like the Ant-Man, or has the same Ant-Man powers, is able to move through phone lines, which is it gets really, really small and can actually move through the phone infrastructure. I don't know how that, like, not physically in the foot, like can move through computer fiber optics and stuff, which is really, really, really trippy, especially when you get into like ghosts and electronics and all that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like he's small enough to where could almost be mostly energy if he's that small.
Exactly.
Because if you're shrinking a person down to that small, but all their energy is still there, that's just something I just thought of. I don't think you could really shrink their energy that much.
Yeah.
It would still be there.
I mean, I guess that's what it must, like, he's, so they call him the Atom, I guess, because he's going down to the size of an atom.
Right.
So just when you get to that size, I guess you can just move through. Yeah, I don't know. All your energy is just atom size,
Wow.
and you can move through fiber optic.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, that's just weird idea. So then we go to Coast City, where they find this, like, the main, like, central, like, black power battery. So the Green Lantern rings are powered by this main central Green Lantern battery and stuff, and each of them carry around, like, the Green Lantern itself is what charges the ring. So you don't see it at all in the story, but that's like kind of what the concept is. So the main Black Lantern hub is in Coast City, and Coast City is just in the story has just been revived. It was completely destroyed by this battle between, like, these, like, evil Supermen and then this, like, guy called Mongol, and it was destroyed when Hal Jordan went bad, and as Parallax, and like so 7 million people are dead in the city, which is like what makes it scary that the Black Lantern battery is there. It's because it's about to revive 7 million corpses from a newly, like, destroyed city. So then at this place, so for every hero that gets killed and revived, you see like 50.4%, 51.3%, 52%, and then finally when we get to Coast City, it goes to 100%. And then this figure Necron emerges, and I'll post a pic when I get a chance. But he's just like basically this, like, Grim Reaper with no hood type figure who carries this huge scythe, and it's just I don't know, just it's pretty badass, honestly. And then we meet the Titans and multiple Flashes in this, which is cool for a Flash fan. We see Barry Allen, Wally West, and Bart Allen all together in this.
Yeah,
running around.
I think just real quick, for people that don't know the comics so well, DC has a fair number of not duplicates, but similar characters. Like, there's been 2 or 3 or 4 different Flash type characters. Obviously, the Green Lantern. I mean, Robin. There's been a few different Robins. That's something that I think is more of a DC thing than a Marvel thing. I don't think they've done that as much in Marvel, at least not overall.
Marvel's done it more recently. Like, honestly, probably like right before, like, your favorite time period of it, or right after. I mean, your favorite time period. They do like the all new, all different, which is like right before I really hop in, and that's where they get the Kate Bishop Hawkeye, and Sam Wilson comes Captain America. like Riri Williams becomes new Iron Man. Basically every single member of the Avengers gets a new version of him, like a new younger version of him, pretty much. The new Hulkling, or no, Anderson, whatever his name is, the new Hulk, Chew.
Okay.
But in DC they do it like a ton. So yeah, like you said, it's within continuity. Like, so somebody will die and somebody will take his place, and then that death will be changed somehow. So you'll get multiple versions of it. But then also Dick Grayson will stop being Robin to become Nightwing, and then Batman has to find a new Robin. And then also DC is huge with the multiverse, so you'll get different versions of them. So in one we get a Earth 3 Lex Luthor at some point in the story, and then there's like they incorporate a lot of different heroes into like the same story in this. So you'll find all kinds of different Flashes running around.
Yeah, that's why I want to make sure let everyone know that does happen.
Yeah.
In DC a lot, but
yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, keep going with from there.
Yeah. So then we see the Indigo Tribe, and they're like really cool looking, and we think that like when they show up, like they're gonna be able to take them out, and then we find like they're not having much luck, and that at some point we realize that if we can combine multiple lights together, that if like the like the red lanterns and the green lanterns can somehow work together, then that will like have more power and be able to take out these black lanterns, and that the more you can get together, if you can get the entire spectrum together, the closer you can to this primordial white light that's like kind of the foundation of the universe. Like they make it seem that in the beginning there was like just this white light, and then this like darkness creeps in and like divides the white light into the spectrum that we see, like the color spectrum and the emotional spectrum, and that like Necron's whole thing, and then the Black Hand is like worships him, is that no, like the darkness is the good guy basically, and like the white light is the invading force. And in the beginning it was just darkness, and just like a kind of just the opposite version of it basically. But that sets the Indigo Tribe out on a mission to go find basically as many different types of lanterns that they possibly can throughout the universe to bring them back to Earth, to Coast City, because that's like where it's all going down. So there's just panel after panel, like huge splash pages, like entire page panels of just hundreds of characters, and like a lot of them are different colored lanterns. So it's just super cool to look at. Of like John Stewart, Green Lantern, leading, just like I don't know, it's really cool. And then other panels of them battling these Black Lanterns, who are just these monsters covered in black goo, and like their flesh all ripped off, and these like glowing black suits battling this like rainbow colored army of superheroes. It's pretty wild to look at. So definitely recommend people check that out. But then Necron takes out. So the whole time, this Black Hand character is like carrying around Batman's skull, and so the other one who took his skull, like, what's going on? What's going on? And then Necron uses it to create this like Batman zombie, and then that, because Batman's tied to so many other characters, he's like such a like people either like make him like he whether causes rage by characters or strong love, or he elicits a lot of emotion basically, and that's and that's pretty much their entire that's the entire point of what they're trying to do, is get as much as possible to then tear your heart out and basically drink it and then turn you into a zombie. So when they show Batman's, that's what turns Superman, that's what turns Wonder Woman, and that's what basically creates this Black Lantern Justice League. And it's like, oh man, here we go. Sorry, like these notes are kind of combining like the entire thing together, so I just want to keep it to the core 8 issues.
That's hard with these kind of big events.
Yeah. So then the Black Hand then summons Necron and revives Coast City, so it creates like 7 million zombies running all around. And then we hop to Sinestro, who is like talking to these so the Indigo Tribe, like they don't go by names, like they're collective, they're like a collective mind, but the leaders like, call me Indigo One if you have to choose a name, and tells this plan to everybody, like we have to kind of fuse this light together, become as close to this original white light as possible to kind of cast out this darkness. So like you need a Green Lantern with you, because like the green is kind of the core, and the green can kind of unlock the other powers. In the meantime, it's very beneficial. Like a green and a red can take them out. A green and, you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
it's to hold them off, to hold them at bay. You have to like use as much light as possible until we can get them all, the whole horde of the lanterns to come and hopefully fix it. So it says that, and then immediately takes Hal Jordan away. So all the characters are like, "What are you doing? You told us we need a Green Lantern, and then you take the one Green Lantern we have that's not off world." So they're all running around trying to find all the other characters that have any type of light power. Like they're not lanterns, but just have any type of lightness, like the Ray or Dove, just anybody who has any type of light adjacent power, to see if like they'll do any damage to these things. And like the Dove of Hawk and Dove, and she ends up having the most effect of anybody, but still it's not good enough. And then where are we? So Superman, Wonder Woman, Superboy, Green Arrow, they're all turned. Donna Troy, like the young Wonder Woman. So then they're all running. So Hal, Green Lantern, and Barry Allen are kind of like the main characters of this. So Hal comes back, and him and Barry are running away from this Justice League, and they're because they were both recently dead. Like Barry was dead for a long time, which brought Wally West's Flash for honestly like 20 years, and then Hal Jordan was just dead after he turned into a villain and killed this whole city as Parallax. Necron is like, if you at any point were dead and resurrected, which is like so many superheroes in DC Comics, if at any point you were resurrected, it's because I let you do that. I allowed you to be resurrected, and I can take you out anytime I want to. So rings, go get them. Like Hal Jordan, Barry Allen, I still own you. So like Hal's like, these things are fast, and Barry's like, I'm faster, and he moves them. So they're literally running away from these rings, and he goes like back in time to try to like them. Or like he jumps like 2 minutes ahead of time. He jumps like 2 minutes into the future, trying to like get them out of there, basically. And which is pretty cool. And then
Yeah, I think real quick,
so
people that maybe don't know the comics so well might not know. The thing about Flash is he does have time powers, doesn't he? If I'm not mistaken.
yeah, he can move so fast that he actually can go forward and backwards in time, which usually doesn't work well for him. That's the Flashpoint, which is one of the big Flash events where he goes back in time and tries to stop his mother from being killed, which is kind of his traumatic event that is kind of his core event. But by doing that, he says he creates an entire new universe. So when he comes back to the present day, he finds that like life is completely different. And in this universe, Batman or Bruce Wayne is dead. His parents are alive, and his parents are Batman and the Joker, respectively. And that's like what the Flash movie is going to be about.
Yeah, they did a animated version of that.
Delete.
They didn't go to that degree. They didn't make the mom the Joker.
They didn't put the Joker.
But they made the Thomas Wayne Batman.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, here we go. I'm just trying to get to the crux of the climax here. All right, so the core leaders, they're trying to fight this guy, but they can't do it. So then, so one cool part is they this is kind of like a real just comic-y thing. This kind of pulls it out of his pocket and just makes it up, kind of. But they say that in an event of emergency, like one of the Guardians tells Hal Jordan that in the event of an emergency, all your rings are able to duplicate themselves. Like they're all able to, so just in case we need to have a huge Lantern army. And even though I don't control all of these other spectrums, like Sinestro and these Rage Lanterns are all like, what you say has nothing to do with my Lantern power. And he's like, no, like it's in the base thing. Like the Green Lantern was first, so this is a base core part of it. I can't control your lantern, but this is the thing. In case of an emergency, your ring can duplicate and go fly off and find somebody else, and let them have powers for 24 hours, and then take it away just to create this huge army. So the orange lantern, the red lantern, the yellow lantern, all go out to try to find new people. So you see the yellow one, the fear one, go and find Scarecrow, which is like the Batman one who induces fear on everybody. He has like the Scarecrow gas that causes everybody to be afraid. So like, you have the power to instill great fear. You're now part of the Sinestro Core. And it goes, the orange lantern finds Lex Luthor, and he's like, give me it, like, because it's greed, and he takes it and he becomes an orange lantern, and then he goes nuts. He goes and tries to like snatch off all the other color lanterns, and he really like goes crazy during the story. And then like one goes to Barry Allen's, like the Blue Lanterns, like, Barry, you bring great hope, like you can become a Blue Lantern. So it's in Wonder Woman becomes a sapphire star, which is like the violet lanterns, like the love lanterns. It's pretty cool. So you get to see like a lot of these different heroes and characters as different colored color lanterns, which is right in my alley. I like that kind of stuff. And then all right, so skip ahead a little bit. Necron unleashes or resurrect or like pulls something out of the earth, basically this like egg out of the earth, this glowing, like, monster, huge kaiju size, giant, like pure white, glowing white, like thing out of the earth, and he calls it the Entity, or like capital letters, like the Entity. And he's like, apparently, this Entity is the base, is like the first of, it's like what creates all life. It's basically the life version of Necron, if Necron is his death force. And so by like revealing this, the Guardians are like, oh no, hey guys, actually life all began for the first time on Earth. Like the Guardians are the oldest things on Earth, like in the universe, but like life didn't start here. It actually started on Earth, and we like hid that away on Earth. So we didn't, like, Hal Jordan was the first Earth Green Lantern, because we didn't want any Earth. We don't want to attract any attention to Earth. We wanted everybody to think that we were the beginning of the universe, to basically give us all our power, all of our authority that we have, which really like pisses off everybody. Like, what do you, like, basically just means they're frauds. They're big liars. But Necron is like trying to destroy this thing, and then Hal realizes that this entity is like parallax, so this big force. So, and then it needs somebody to merge with it. It needs like a vessel to merge with it. So we think Hal's going to do it, but then Sinestro, who's like thinks he's the best Lantern, and like besides Hal, and like was the best Lantern, he goes, "It's my destiny. I'm going to do it," and he becomes a White Lantern, and he goes and like battles Necron. And we think he's like might actually do it, but Necron says like death cannot be stopped, and like basically like slaps away Sinestro pretty much. But it's a really cool sequence, and just like the white glowing suit, and it's a real, like, I don't know, I'll post pictures of it. It's pretty cool. So then Dead Man possesses Guy Gardner, who's the one of the few redhead characters we get in DC Comics, but he's one of the least famous Green Lanterns. Kind of just like the most headstrong one. He's not in a lot of stories. Dead Man possesses Guy Gardner and explains that Black Hand is Necron's tether, and that he must be revived to defeat Necron. Necron separates Sinestro from the Entity, and Hal says that Necron opened the door to death, but it was the decision of the heroes to live. So he's basically saying that, like, you don't control us, you don't own us. Pretty much, it's our own destiny. Like, you might have like showed us the door, but we had to make the decision to leave. So you have no power. And they devise a plan to resurrect this Black Hand person who was obsessed with death and now is dead. So they restore the Black Hand. He regurgitates all this stuff. He like throws up all this stuff. The White Ring. So the Black Hand regurgitates a White Ring. So when he's brought back to life as the tether of Necron, which like a lot of this is just crazy comic stuff, and it doesn't make any sense as I'm saying it, because in the story it doesn't make a lot of sense. You kind of just go with it. But he like throws up this white ring. Like basically this births this new type of ring, and that new type of ring revives the antimatter, this cosmic being, who they're using as the battery to power this Black Lantern energy. And when he's revived, it messes with Necron's power source, and makes Black Hand throw up a bunch of more white rings. And then these white rings basically go to Hawkman, Deadman, Hawkgirl, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, creates this like White Lantern core, using like different Justice League members, which is cool. Then almost done. And then
That's a lot of
questions so
metaphysical
far?
stuff there. I mean, a lot of
Yeah,
just big ideas that are just being attached to characters, individual characters, which is neat.
And it's a lot of and like a lot of symbiotic relationships and stuff too. Like the idea of like the alien symbiote that we were talking about the other night in Troubled Minds. Like these rings, these things choose hosts. They call them hosts. You know, like they don't act as sentient as like a Venom symbiote does, but they're the protecting force who like chooses their own host. And then all of these like cosmic forces that are like the basis of the power source, they all do choose vessels like the Phoenix Force does. You know, it's very weird. It's very possessing alien thing,
Right.
which is and look led by a council of, I think it might be a nine Guardian Council. I was trying to I was watching one of the animated ones this morning, and I tried to count it real quick, but it was too fast. I think it was 9. Pretty sure it was 9. Yeah, almost done. And then so this white ring. Sorry, we'll get to the end.
So these white rings. That's no, that's no problem.
Sorry.
That's I wonder now. These characters, do these rings? I wonder how these rings interact with the individual characters' powers. Are they like enhanced, or do they just have like an energy based, like similar to Green Lantern, on top of their powers?
Yeah, it was brief, and it was only a few like just kind of just badass images of just white light, just like Superman and Wonder Woman, just kind of glowing white light and destroying these like in mass these Black Lantern things. So it didn't like dive that deep into it, and it brings the question of like what would happen if Superman wore a Green Lantern ring.
Right.
Like it makes you wonder, like does his laser vision become green? Does that like a lot of cool aspects to it. So, but it didn't explore it as much as you might want it to, other than just giving these things new costumes and like white eyes and white. It's like basically characters going Super Saiyan in Dragon Ball Z. Just which, but that's very,
sounds
very cool.
Like a lot
also,
of great visuals.
And it, like yeah, for sure. And so they then essentially just kill Necron. Like the Justice League overtakes him with this white energy, and we start seeing those same little lantern things, those like colored lantern subtitle things on the panels, go from like die or from like black, like the black power to be like white power, not white power. That sounds bad. From this white lantern energy, resurrecting all of these zombie things again, like kind of like fixing what had been done, while also reviving dozens and dozens and dozens of dead superheroes now back into DC continuity, which is a big deal. Like, so then they're looking around, being like, how, like Barry Allen is looking for like his parents and stuff, and like Hal Jordan was like looking for his dad and stuff, and they're looking for Batman. So they're like, okay, well, it's only reviving some people. We don't know why, in which, like we don't know the rhyme or reason for it. And then also the fact that it didn't revive Batman leads us to think that Batman is not dead, like Robin thinks, like ... Then also somebody looks around and says, where did this entity go, and where did the Black Hand go? And they realize the Indigo Tribe is gone. So the Indigo Tribe went and basically like prisoned the Black Hand in some like weird metaphysical type Tartarus prison. So this can't happen again. And that's basically it. And then it's just that's pretty much it. Just
Yeah,
that's
that's
it. Basically.
that's a heck of a ride.
Yeah. It's fun if you're a DC hardcore person, just because it's a lot of just seeing different characters and different like just the idea of the multicolored spectrum in itself is cool. From just seeing different colored lanterns is really fun, and then getting to see the Flash and Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman as like A, zombies, and then B, as different colored lanterns.
Now, when
it's
did
pretty
this
fun.
come out? Around what time?
It's like
Okay.
2010. I think there was a blurb, maybe 2009. There was a blurb from the director of the Green Lantern movie, like saying like we're on set right now making the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, who people don't like very much. But like I'm talking with Jeff Johns about how great this event was. So that's probably like 6 months after the event actually came out. So 2009 range probably. But this was like seminal in the Green Lantern mythology, and then going forward, it changed everything. As far as the multi-spectrum lanterns and everything.
That is, yeah, that's really neat. I love the thing that's sticking to me is just the idea of the different emotions, and then the death one. I mean, obviously, it's used as a bad thing in this story, mostly, but I mean, death doesn't necessarily have to mean death of a person completely, like their physical form. It can just be the death of or the end of a phase, you know. So
Yeah.
I think even though in the story it was obviously it was rough and it was turned bad, there's still something to that, you know. I mean, that obviously changed a lot of things, like you said, in the DC universe.
Yeah, and that it like the apocalyptic prophecy type aspect of it, the idea that it was trying to eliminate all people, because if there's even one person left, that one person's emotion fuels the entire spectrum. So if that one person has like willpower, then there will always be a green energy source, a Green Lantern energy source. But if there's no living people, then there's only the death source. There's only this Necron force, and that's kind of what the whole plan was. But the message that, like you said, is that if there's even one person, there's like one spark of hope in one person, then like that can hold back the death force from taking over. You know, that can hold back the darkness.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. So that was the one thing. And I think there was another, but I can't remember what it was now. But that's okay. That's a really amazing event, though.
Yeah.
I like the thing with Batman just bringing out emotions in everyone, because it's so true. I think.
Yeah.
You look into any kind of
Yeah.
relationship with him, there's almost always some kind of strong emotions.
Yeah, and there's a lot of just cool little esoteric moments throughout the course of the story too. Like at one point when because battling, it's hopping from panel to panel, seeing all these different heroes in their own kind of segments of the DC universe. So when we go to the dead Aquaman and Mirror and everybody fighting each other, there's these like dead mermaids and stuff, and then they call them like stay back, siren, and these mermaids are trying to sing songs to them and stuff, and that's the siren like archetype in mythology and stuff like the. It's just little cool like mythology moments during the course of the story, mixed with like DC lore fun. But the next one we do, I'll try to make it so it's not like a completely giant universe connecting thing, so it's not as complicated to try to summarize. We can stick to something more
Yeah,
more
well,
just
and
simple
I think we
paranormal.
can I
But
think we can continue on the line with the Marvel timeline as well. Because
oh
we
yeah,
just
for
did
sure, for
the
sure. Yeah,
House of M, so we can go on with see what events after that come that have ties to the paranormal. Because obviously that's that's
yeah,
that's there, and I love that that's there in the fiction as well as in the real world, whatever is real. But yeah,
yeah.
love it.
We got there's a Doctor Strange premiere
Okay.
in like 2 weeks, the movie. So maybe if we find some kind of Doctor Strange adjacent event or something that he's involved in, maybe out of order a little bit, but could be nice to talk about. There's a little and then hop back into the regular Marvel order or
It
events.
might be worth it just to look into his own events because
Yeah, oh,
yeah,
yeah,
if
for
there's
sure.
anything that would be just steeped in that kind of stuff, it'd be him. Um,
My first event was him. Like my first event, actually, I bought every issue of. It was a tiny one. It's like It's a 5 issue event. Damnation, where basically like hell rises up like physically,
mm,
like in Las Vegas or something like that, and then Las Vegas gets dropped down into hell. But it's like him, Ghost Rider, Ben Riley, Spider Man, and like a couple other paranormal adjacent characters. But it's very short, or something like that. Some kind of short little Doctor Strange event. We can just pop in for fun and then go back to the regular
yeah, definitely. I
big
think
events.
that'd be a good thing to work in there. So yeah, well, thank you for
Yeah.
and
Thank you
thank
everybody
you
for
for
listening too.
summarizing that.
Yeah.
I know it's not easy to summarize these big events because you don't know what to include and what not to include, and but you did well. It was good. It was like I said, a lot of great ideas there. And
Thank you, James.
so yeah,
Yeah. At one point in the notes, it just became all just random names of people. Like this name did this. This it just became no, it wasn't important to the summary. So it's tough to find the next cogent point to make. But thank you for all for bearing
yeah,
with me.
no problem. Thank
It's
you,
fun, James. Thank you.
and I think that'll do it for tonight. So thank you for being on, Derek, and we'll do this again next month.
Thank you.
So, and I think that'll do it for the show. Thank you all for listening, and I'll be back tomorrow night with I'll actually be back tomorrow night with the stories that I didn't get to read last night because I had to take the night off. But so that'll be fun, and then Friday we'll be doing the second part in our series on fairs and festivals and amusement parks and the paranormal. So there's 2 more parts to that this Friday and next Friday. So thank you all again, and I will talk to you all tomorrow night on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.